Okay, so let's get started. So I'd just like to welcome you all to tonight's webinar. My name is Rafi Schulman, and I'm the co-founder of Olim Advisors. It's a pleasure to have you here tonight. I just want to take a moment and introduce you to the panelists who are joining us. I just want to thank you for your time. So we'll start with two of our clients, Racheli Kremenzer and David Karsh. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Hey, Rafi.
Thanks for joining. And then we're also, I'd like to introduce you to Chuck Feinstein. Chuck actually is a client of ours and an advisor. So he's fortunate to wear both hats. So thanks, Chuck, for joining us.
Thank you.
And then Laura with Risa still.
Yeah, she's on as a panelist. I see her here as a panelist.
Okay.
Hi,
Risa.
I'm here.
Okay. Hey.
Hi, Risa.
Hi.
So Risa Shapiro. Risa is one of our advisors. So better late than never. Thanks for joining us, Risa. I appreciate it.
Hey.
And let's just check to see where she bullets. Here she is. So let's just add her on here and then we'll get started.
Risa helped her parents make Aliyah at the age of 97 and 101 just a few months ago.
That's amazing.
That's the picture.
Yep. So Laura, let me know when she bullets on. And
I will let you know.
what I want to just do first is just go over a few quick things for everybody. First of all, we will be recording this. If you came late, if you had to leave early, don't worry about it. We'll send out a recording, and we'll send out the link to the recording within a couple of days to everyone who registered. So you'll have that and you can watch it again at your convenience. And also, if you know somebody who wasn't able to attend today, please feel free to share that with them as well. That'd be great. The other thing is, I've included my contact information and Risa and Chuck's information at the end of the presentation. So if you have any questions, you want to understand who we are, what we do, how we help, feel free to reach out to us. At the same time, we're also going to reach out to you. We know that it's really impossible to get into everyone's situation and answer everybody's questions in a webinar like this. So we want to have one-on-one conversations with you to really understand what your plan is, what your questions are, and to help you in any way that we can. And then the last thing is, feel free to put your questions in the Q&A box. We'll have a Q&A session at the end, and we'll get to everybody or as many questions as we can. So just feel free to do that as we go through the presentation.
And Rafi Shibolet is on, if you could just switch
Okay,
over panelists.
great.
Hi, Shibolet.
Oh, Shibolet too?
Yeah, she's here, but she's not. You have to switch her on to be a
Okay, to presenter.
to present.
I thought I did already.
I think you did for Risa. Yeah.
I don't see her now.
Oh yeah, she's.
Oh. Hi, Shibolet.
Hi, how are you?
There's a lot of background echo. Do you hear that, or is it just me?
Yeah, no, I hear that, Shibolet.
So Shibolet, I don't know if you're using your laptop and your computer or your phone or something, but it just if you want to speak. There you go. I think that's better. Can you say hi?
Hi, is that better?
Yeah,
Perfect.
hi. Perfect.
So welcome. Thank you for joining us. Shibolet Felser is another one of our amazing advisors, and she's going to be sharing her experience and how she helps. So thanks, Shibolet, for joining tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you. So I want to just start off by just taking a step back in time and just explain to you why we started Olim Advisors and what we're trying to accomplish. So if we go back to 2016, Laura, who I forgot to introduce, sorry, Laura. Laura Itzhaki is my partner, and we started Olim Advisors together. What we really wanted to do is we wanted to encourage people and help people make Aliyah. So those big decisions that people have to make, like finding the right communities, finding schools, finding homes, deciding what to ship and what to bring. There's a lot of decisions that people have to make before they make Aliyah. And so we want to help you with those decisions and guide you through the process. And then once you get to Israel, that's when the fun begins, as I say. Then you have to deal with the bureaucracy. You have to deal with the daily life. And while it's amazing, it's challenging. It's a different language, a different culture. Things are done differently. And so we're here to help you deal with the bureaucracy. We're here to give you the ongoing support for 6 months to a year after, and really be the support, really be a place where you can contact with any questions that you have, give you that peace of mind to know that there's somebody here who can really guide you and answer your questions. Then a couple of years ago, we also expanded into real estate, because what we realized is that a lot of people, it's their dream, it's their goal to own a home in Israel. But the process of buying a home in Israel is very different from the States and UK and from South Africa and around the world. And so what we do is we guide people through the process. We explain to them how it works. The other challenge that people have is that they don't know who they should work with. They don't know who they should trust, and they're afraid of being taken advantage of. So we have a wonderful network of professionals that will help you through the process. So we're not going to focus on real estate in this presentation, but if you are thinking about buying a home, feel free to reach out to us. We can definitely help you find that dream home in Israel. Now, the challenge, as I mentioned, making Aliyah can be very challenging. But it's a process that definitely is doable. And if you take a look at the screen here, this is actually Risa's family, her parents that are sitting there front and center, Sandy and Rosalie, who made Aliyah at 101 and 97. And Risa was just amazing in everything that she did to bring them here. And so what we tell people is if they can make Aliyah at their age, you can as well. And it's just something to keep in mind. So with that, I'd like to get started, and I'd like to start with two of the challenges that a lot of people deal with. The first one is the difficulties of finding the right community and finding schools and finding a home. And the other challenge is how do you integrate into the new culture, into an environment that is different, unfamiliar, and of course a different language. And so what I'd like to do is I'd like to turn it over to the panelists, and let's start. If you can talk about your Aliyah experience. Talk a little bit about the city that you moved to and why you chose that city. How did you go about choosing that city? And then we'll talk about the other challenge of integrating into the culture here as kind of the next thing. So Racheli, let's start with you.
Okay, so we made Aliyah about 7 months ago in January from Australia. This was my 6th move in 20 years and my family's 5th move. We've moved around a lot for my husband's work, and we have 3 children. To be honest, this was by far the hardest move that we ever made. And my husband and I always laugh that all our other moves until now prepared us really for the ultimate one, which is Israel. And the first couple of months were really very, very challenging. We had, I think, probably everything that could go wrong went wrong. And in terms of the bureaucracy and paperwork and documents, and just it was one thing after another. Lara and I always joke that I'm going to write a book one day about our story, because just the most unusual things went wrong. It was very bizarre. At some points I thought, maybe it's just not meant to be. Should we pack up and just go back home? But we pushed through, thanks to Lara.
You're amazing.
And I think one of the things that always struck me was the same day that something went really wrong, something also went really right the next day or the day after. And one of the things that really helped us through it was the genuinity of the people here. And we really felt, and I can really speak from experience because I've experienced many communities, many countries, many schools, many people. But the kindness that I felt in Israel, and we live in Ra'anana, especially in Ra'anana, and I think it is a real, one of the real positive parts of Ra'anana is that there is a lot of kindness here, and there are always people to help you through. So we have, Olim Advisors helping us officially, but on top of that, there were just random strangers that would help us for no reason, not because they owed us anything, not because they had to help us, not because we were going to do anything back for them, but just because they wanted to, and because they're kind. And that was something, that's something that you can't change in a community, you can't change in a people, you can't change in a culture. If it's there, it's there. And that's something really beautiful. So, and I feel that generally in Israel, there's a lot of crap that goes down as well, a lot of hardship and a lot of difficulties, but there is something within the people here that is very helpful and very, very kind. We decided to move to Ra'anana, not because we came on many look-sees and went to every city and researched it well. We really didn't. We made our Aliyah decision literally within a 2-week span, and we decided and we came. It was a very quick decision. It was not something that we planned for months on end. So we didn't have the luxury of that time and space to do a lot of research. But Ra'anana, we definitely feel was, and we knew it was going to be a very soft landing in terms of the very Olim conscious here. And that's been of enormous benefit to all of us, especially to the kids. Firstly, the language. We brought kids who are quite old, so I have a 17-year-old and a 15-year-old and a 9-year-old, and everybody says, yeah, within 3 months your kids are going to speak Hebrew. It's not true. It doesn't happen. And it's really tough, especially when they're older and they have to sit in a classroom at the age of 15 and everything is another language. My daughter keeps telling me, imagine if I put you in a classroom in China and expected you to understand everything that was going on and do well. And she's right. But there is an understanding here of Olim and what they've been through, from the children to the teenagers, to the adults, to your friends, your parents' friends, to the schools, to the administration, to the area, to everybody. And it's throughout the whole city. And there is a lot of comfort in that, because everybody knows what you're going through. Not everybody, but a large percentage, and a large percentage have been through it as well. And there is a lot of infrastructure in place as well. So, for example, the whole concept of community that we're used to in other places of the world, where you invite people Shabbat and you have a shul that's a community. And B'nai Akiva, for example, B'nai Akiva here have an Olim class just for Olim Chadashim. They have a whole a group. And the madruchim there speak English, they speak Hebrew as well, but the kids automatically feel comfortable. They have there's an organization called Telfed, and they have plus students, which are students who come and they spend 2 hours a week with one of your kids, and they volunteer and they help them adjust. So, you know, chugim, for example, you have chugim that they may be in Hebrew, but there's always someone who speaks English. And for the children, that's really important. It's for adults as well. Emails, for example, at schools here, many of the schools are translated into English. So you'll get an email, it will be in English, French, and Hebrew. In all the WhatsApp groups, most of the time someone is able to translate and does automatically translate for you. And those things are really pivotal when you first land, and you know there are so many changes, you're in absolute culture shock. So that's been really, really incredible.
How did you choose the schools and the homes? If you didn't make a pilot trip, how did you go about doing that?
So for my oldest daughter, who was going into 11th grade, we decided on the international school, which is a school in English. And they don't follow the Bagrut, they follow the IB curriculum. And we didn't feel it was fair. She didn't have much Hebrew, so we didn't feel it was fair to put her into a Hebrew speaking school. And she had been to an IB school previously when we lived in Singapore. So that was perfect for her. And then the other kids, to be honest, we just asked whoever we knew here. And we just followed the trend. That's really, we visited a couple of schools, but you don't really, the area really chooses where you go, where you can make a request, but they don't always honor it. They have the last decision on that. So, and it's also according to where you live. So it's all zoned in Ranana. So you have to go to the school within your zoning.
Got it. And then once you get over that initial shock of landing in Israel and then getting your house set up and everything, now that you're looking back and you've been here for 7 months, what are some of the things that you found that have helped you kind of adjust? Once you get beyond that initial period and now you're really settling into a new life in Israel, are there 2 or 3 things maybe that you've done, your husband, your kids, that you think would be helpful for other people?
So a couple of things that I've done personally for myself is I joined a running group, which is something that has really also been life-saving. It sounds a bit strange, but just that having that place to go, we train twice a week. I've never run in my life before, but a lot of them join that here, and we have an incredible trainer who's very motivating. And knowing that, when you move with younger kids, I've always found that it's much easier to form a community, to meet people, make friends, because you have that automatic network for your children. When your kids are older, it's a lot harder. And especially in Israel, because kids are a lot more independent, so they kind of just go off on their own. So it's given me an opportunity to meet people and to do something for myself, despite whatever was going on, especially initially at the beginning when things were so stressful. I knew twice a week, 7 p.m. comes on a Wednesday night and Saturday night, I'm out running. And that structure really, really helped me. So I think doing something for yourself, something that you love, something that gives you a sense of belonging when you feel so lost in new culture, new language, new everything, that has been life-saving. And I haven't done that before in my other moves, and I can see it made a significant difference. That was really great. Other things, I think working on perspective and your mindset. So knowing what you're looking for in your new life really helps, and being clear about that, and not trying to swim upstream. Because actually my husband and one of my oldest daughter moved here before myself and the younger kids, because we wanted my daughter to be here for the first day of school. And so he gave me a lot of prep. He had about 3 months here without me, and he was kind of teaching me the culture on, you know, as he was learning it, and giving me advice on what to start letting go of back in Australia before we came. And that also really helped. Like, you know, a simple example would be the schooling. The schooling here is so different. Coming from a place in Australia where school is very structured, school is very serious, it's a central part of a child's life. Whereas here, there are so many other priorities. That definitely has its advantages and disadvantages, but letting go of those kind of expectations before you arrive are really helpful. And things like saying, don't swim upstream, don't try and fight the system. You have to embrace it. And actually, I think it was at Miss Radapnim, or one of the bureaucratic officers, that one of the many that we visited, they said, if you smile at Israel, Israel smiles at you. And
That's nice.
it's very, very true. It is really, really true. It's all about perspective. It's all about what you want to make of your new life, and keeping that at the forefront of your mind is very, very helpful. And reminding the kids of the same, being able to sit with them in their sadness of missing home, missing their friends, missing their family, missing their old life, and being able to be there for them with that, but also at the same time holding that space, and holding the space of, look at what this new life has to offer you. Is really important.
Wonderful. Thank you. I think that's very helpful. Thank you.
Right.
All right, David, we'll hand it over to you.
Rafi, thank you, David Karsh. It was really fantastic to hear Raheli's story, and you know, God willing, the rough patches that you guys went through are behind you, and it's much smoother sailing. You said, you know, you made a lot of wonderful points that resonated. You know, one of those was that sense of being welcomed here. We feel that you know, as immigrants, we're not a burden. We feel like we're being welcomed, you know, really everywhere we go in Israel. And that really is, it's a comfort. You know, our first Shabbat here, you know, you're new, you get an Aliyah, and afterwards, you know, they all say, welcome home. And, you know, you feel like you're home, you know. I think the first time Rafi and I spoke, and it was a few years ago, my wife, and we have 7 kids. We were living in Atlanta, Georgia, for the past 10 years. I'm from Miami. My wife is from New York. And one of those early conversations when Rafi's like, okay, so do you guys want to go to an American community? Do you want to go to an Israeli community? We're like, it doesn't matter, wherever. You know, you want to live in the North, you want to live in the South, it's fine, the center. You know, you don't know what you don't know. And we knew that we wanted to go to Israel. We didn't know. And, you know, when it's just sort of like an idea, it all sounds fine. But Rafi and the team did an amazing job really drilling down to who we are. You know, my wife, myself, and each of our kids, they spent a lot of time, and the answers that they were seeking, you know, it helped them advise us, but it really helped us get a better look at who we are, what do we need, and it helped us identify, okay, you know, we can't just get off the plane and live in, you know, a fully Hebrew-speaking area. We have to find a place that is a soft landing, you know, for our family, and that helped us, you know, pinpoint a few different communities where there's English spoken, where we could fit in from a cultural standpoint. And when I came on the pilot trip, last May, not this past May, but a year ago, our Aliyah will be a year old next week. And I remember at that point, we couldn't find anything. We needed a house that was large enough for 7 kids in a specific type of community, you know, and when I was on my show, I couldn't find anything. You know, Rafi and the team did a great job putting me with realtors who spent a lot of time with me. We drove to the different areas. We looked at the schools. They had contacts at the schools. They had meetings set up for me. Normally it'd be my wife, quite honestly, who would go to check out the schools for the kids, but she was back home with the kids. It was just easier for me to come over and to have my hand being held to say, okay, go to this city, go to this school. It really made things doable. And we were able to find a house that opened up in Ramat Beit Shemesh. That's where we live now, Ramat Beit Shemesh Aleph. And it is, thank God, as soft a landing as we prayed for and as we could have hoped for. Our big concern, which I'm sure is the same thing with Raheli and her husband, and basically anybody who comes over, is, will the kids be happy? Because if the kids are happy, there's a good chance you're going to be happy. And we were extremely concerned, mostly with our oldest son, who's 15, because he would have been starting high school in America with all of his buddies that he knew since kindergarten and first grade, and now he's starting a school in a new country. My wife and myself are not as nice as Raheli and her husband. We threw our kids into Hebrew-speaking schools. That's just the way that it worked out. And it was sort of like, you want to learn to swim? Okay, jump into the pool. And it wasn't easy. I'd go and my wife and I would go to the parent-teacher meetings, and the way they do it here is before you meet with the individual teachers, the head of the school would speak for about an hour, and I didn't know a word. I'm just sitting there nodding, pretending I knew, but I'm like, wow, this is what my kids must feel like, but they were able to adapt. One of the things that helped, and really we thank God, it's landing in the right community, and even within communities, the right street. We happen to be, on a street where our kids have made a ton of friends. They play sports, and they're happy. And that made the hours that they're in school not knowing the language much more bearable when they've made friends. And there's also, as Raheli said, a level of independence that our kids never had in America. You want to go to your friend's house? Okay, we'll drive you. Our kids' school in America is about 20 minutes from the house. We never would have dreamed about putting them on a public bus and sending them to school. No way, right? But our oldest three, our 15, our 13 and 12-year-old, they have Ravcovs, which are the public bus cards. They hop on the bus. They go to school. After school, they may go to the mall with their friends. They never had this level of independence, in America. So in this past year, they've grown, and my wife and I have grown tremendously as well. So, I think one of the keys which helped me a lot is that when I came on my pilot trip, I happened to stay, my brother and his wife live in Modin here in Israel. And the mindset I had was, I believe it was like the Vikings. When the Vikings would go to invade another country, they would land their ships and they would burn their ships on the beach. And it's like, we're fighting, we're dying, no retreat. And that's the mindset I had. We're selling the house, we're going to Israel, we're not going to fail. And it was my sister-in-law, who happens to be Israeli. She's like, come on. She's like, there's enough pressure already. She's like, treat it as an adventure. And like that light bulb went off. It's like, you're right. So got home, I talked to my wife about that, talked to the kids, like, guys, we're going on an adventure, right? We want to move to Israel because we feel this is where our family belongs. But, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. God knows, but we're going to find out. And guys, it's going to be an adventure together. We're going to we don't know what the neighborhood's going to be like. We got this house sight unseen because I couldn't find anything on my pilot trip. So my wife joined a WhatsApp group, and when something came up that fit, we took it. We were paying rent. We didn't even know this place. When we got dropped off from the airport, the driver's like, "Where's your house?" We're like, "We don't know. But we told the kids, they had a bunch of questions, and my wife and I were honest. We're like, we don't know, but let's find out together. So when you treat something as an adventure, there's going to be twists, there's going to be turns, but you're sort of ready for it, that really took a lot of pressure off. And, I feel like Rafi and I are good friends, because though neither my wife or myself are the type to ask for help, we've learned to get past that, to get past the ego. We need help, right? We don't know. So call Rafi, call call anyone on the team. First time, I met Shibolet in person. We felt like we knew each other just from talking on the phone. Really, it was the one time where the Israeli bureaucracy was really hindering us, and that was to get our Israeli passports. My company's in America, so I was going back and forth, and I should have had my passport, and it really made traveling difficult. And what had happened was our appointments kept getting canceled. We had no idea why, and the can kept getting pushed down the road. And Shibolet found out that apparently there was some Russians, who hacked into the Israeli passport system and stole the appointments and were selling them. And when the Israeli office saw that, oh, there's a family of 9, no way, that's a fake. So they kept just canceling our appointment. And we never would have known, we never would have found out. The appointment just would keep getting made and canceled. So thank God Shibolet got to the bottom of it and got us an appointment the next day at 8 a.m. We had to get all the kids there. And when we got to the office, in the parking lot, it was a zoo. The place was packed. And my wife and I look at each other like, what are we going to do? And then we see this hand arise from the front of this mob, and it parted like the sea. And there's Shibolet waving us through, right? She got us the appointment. She was there talking to the guard at the door and got us in. We're like, you know what? Thank God for Olim Advisors. Thank you, Shibolet. That it's just an example, because I feel there's so many times. I'm sorry?
I'm saying you're not exaggerating. It was really like that.
The truth.
That's
the
amazing.
Truth.
That's
right?
amazing.
So Nefesh B'Nefesh, amazing help. Having my brother and his wife here, amazing help. But there's so many things that sort of like fall through the cracks just living, and it's been extremely comforting to be able to just pick up the phone, not be embarrassed, but say, hey, I don't know what to do, right? Whether it be schools or whatever it may be. The passports were used where Shibolet literally saved us. But thankfully, the transition has been as smooth as it can be. Yes, there's been surprises, but we're grateful to be here, and when we see our kids are happy, our kids love it here. So that's really made the move so much easier for us.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, David. Appreciate it. All right, Chuck, you're up.
Okay. Hi, I'm Chuck Feinstein. My story is completely different from these two guys, and amazing experience. It's very interesting. So I'm married with grown children who stayed in the States, and a stepson who's here in Israel. But we were living in Germany, where my wife had a work permit. So I didn't get to use Nefesh B'Nefesh. I dealt directly with the Jewish agency, which was interesting. But it was fine. I got it done. But I ended up coming here pretty much by myself. Now, I've got family here. I've got many Israeli cousins, but they all work. They all have full lives and children and working and whatever. And my stepson was just getting out of the army, and he was in university and working full time. So I didn't really have, I hadn't become a client yet of Olim Advisors, but I thought I could do it myself. I've lived in 5 different countries. I was in the military. I moved 20 some times. I've done this before. Well, no, it is different here. Don't be scared, but it is different. So I thought I could do it all myself, but I got to Herzliya, where my son was living, and I stayed with him for a little while. And that's when I decided to contact Olim Advisors. I'd seen Rafi on a video for some communities. So I was doing my research. I knew I wasn't going to stay in Herzliya, nice place, but I knew it wasn't what I wanted. So I was doing a lot of research, Facebook groups, WhatsApp groups, different videos in different places. But I saw Rafi talking about Olim Advisors, and he talked about the bureaucracy program, which for me was the piece that I needed. And I signed up, and Laura, lifesaver, helped me very much. Shibolet with my driver's license, which is another story I don't go into. But it really, I never lost faith in Israel, but I had a lot of stress, anxiety, because I didn't know the culture. I didn't know the language. Everything is different. Okay, things are similar, but they are very different. And like you said, they're not going to change for you. You have to change. You know, one has to change to become Israeli. You have to learn to get your elbows out a little bit. You have to, you have to be able to speak up. But anyway, it worked out. And that's why, before I talk about where I live, when I was so happy with what I experienced being a client of Olim Advisors, I know it sounds like a commercial, but when they had the job posting, I said, I really believe in what they do, and that's why I applied. And that's why I got hired. And I'm a sales counselor and the first person that many people talk to when they talk to Olim Advisors. So I really believe in it. So
Chuck, talk about that side of it for a couple of minutes. Just now that you're part of the team here and you're reaching out to people and you want to help them from your experience, what are some of the things that how do you help people as you're talking to them?
Well, the first thing is I ask them some questions, but I want to hear what they have to say. What are their concerns? Because everybody's different. I want to hear a little bit about what they're most concerned about, what they're most happy about, give them some empathy and some explanation, because I did this only about 1.5 years ago when I landed in Israel. So it's still pretty fresh. And we commiserate about the joys of getting apostille documents and, all those kind of issues and whatever. But I talk to people about the experience, and with the help that you can get from Olim Advisors, it makes it so much easier to help with the planning. But my job is to, yes, talk to them about Olim Advisors, but also to tell them, don't be afraid, embrace this. This is an adventure. This is certainly a life-changing experience, but it's for the positive. You wouldn't be talking to me unless you weren't interested. So it's more of that kind of thing. I try not to get too deeply into the nuts and bolts, because I can be on the phone for hours and it's not really best serving. But I find out where they're at, what are some of the hard points, how we can help, and that's pretty much what we talk about, and then we take it from there.
Excellent.
That's what I do. But I find that a comforting voice, because I really do try to help people. I do care, because like I said, I've been there fairly recently, and I find that I can put people at ease, get them to laugh. Sometimes people are, when they're calling us, sometimes they're wound up. They're having a problem with Nefesh B'Nefesh, they're having a problem with Jewish agency. I'm not the expert that those organizations are, but I can help them. And I think that's a big part of my role.
Right, I would agree. Okay, we're going to move on to Risa and Chipolet. I just want to let everybody know we're still going to talk about the other topics, the financial side of it and the bureaucracy in a few moments, but I think that this is really helpful. So Risa, if you want to talk about your experience and where you
I don't get to talk about how great Na'ariyah is, because because I represent the other demographic. I came here as a retiree, and you got a lot of people who are interested, and they need to know what it's like to come here when you're not thinking about the important things of schools and whatever. So I don't mean to
go ahead.
Sorry,
Chuck, you're right.
But I think it's important. So when you are older and you're here either by yourself or with your spouse or partner, I found that the easiest thing for me to do was make criteria for what was important to me. I wanted to be near the train. I wanted to be near the beach. I wanted to have a hospital. I wanted to have shopping. I wanted to have an active Anglo community. So while I was living in Herzliya, I did a lot of research, watched the videos. I visited several different places. And when for me, when I went to Na'ariyah, that checked all the boxes. So I found that it was very important to have a group of people who are similar. Now, it's not just retirees here. There are lots of people of all different ages, and it's a very diverse city of all different kinds of religious levels and different. You walk on the street, you hear Hebrew, English, Russian, Spanish, Amharic, Arabic. You hear everything here, and all sorts of people from 0 to 100 on religiosity. And the good thing is no one judges. There's no one that shakes a finger at you for doing or for not doing. So all those things, but finding a place, all those things are important, but finding a place where, just like those with children in school, you know, you want to find a place where your children are comfortable. I also had to find a place where I was comfortable. I have people that I could relate to. And I mean, and I have friends of all different ages, but I found, like, you want to find a place that's child integration friendly. You want a place that's also maybe older people integration friendly. Also, this is where we have a beautiful seashore. It's very flat. You can ride your bike, you can walk. There are people with mobility issues here that don't have a problem here in our area. So my suggestion for people who are retirees or coming or a little bit older, just like anyone else, you have to do your research. And I found the place that's right for me. I'm sure you'll find the place that's right for you too. Okay, my commercial for Nauru is over. Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. Appreciate it. All right, Risa, you're up.
Hi, I'm Risa Shapiro. I realized today that I'm here 20 years,
Wow.
which is, I don't know, time flies. When I came, my children were the oldest was going into high school and the youngest was going into first grade. And so I really commiserate with some of the younger crowd, shall we say, that is looking to make Aliyah, because it's a very brave step. But I want to stress one thing: whether you're young or retired or anything in between, it's a process. And process is like peeling the layers of the onion. And everyone will be at a different stage in that process. Some are just in the idea stage, a dream. Some are really jumped in and started the filing process. And I get calls, I make calls and get calls from people at every stage of the process. Sometimes they don't even know where they are in that process. So my role with Olim Advisors has been, over the last year and a half, that I have helped identify some of the stressors that people might voice. And there is a lot of tension sometimes in getting all the process, the paperwork and the apostille and all this. People make plans. I want to come next December or next June, and then things get fouled up. So, when you're trying to raise children and organize a school year, that could be frustrating. Other parts of the process might be finding the right community, finding the right home. What we do at Olim Advisors is, I think many of us have described, that we really need to identify the parameters. What are your parameters that you need? Do you want to have a seashore? Do you want to have an inner city? Do you want to be in the north, the south? What is defining the area that you would be happy? Like Chuck just said, something flat for retirees, recreational opportunities, volunteer opportunities. These things all come up in our discussion. And every single person has a different set of parameters. And when back in the day, it was like, when I came, it was like throwing a dart at the wall. I say that because it really was like hit or miss. We didn't, first of all, there weren't even so many options. And supportive schools, for instance, there was one school. I moved to Jerusalem, and there was one school that welcomed us as Olim, and they had supportive classes to learn Hebrew. I went to other schools and they said, Olim, we don't want to touch you at all. Like, literally was turned away. So those days, thank God, are really over. They were very tough. A lot of people went back. They didn't make it. There was no Olim Advisors. I don't think there was even a Nefesh B'Nefesh 20 years ago. And it was like, I was thrown here with 3 children and didn't know the language and had no support, absolutely nothing. And it was, I don't know how I got through those years, and I don't know how I stuck it out. But when I talk to people now, it's like, it's just a whole new world. It's like, you have support. You have people that have come before you. When you make a pilot trip, we hope to connect you with other people that are a step ahead of you, that maybe came a year before you, and they're just like you, and you're going to speak to them, and you're going to find out, how's life here? Can you picture yourself here? It's a huge step, the pilot trip. And if if you're not sure you want to engage the full service, I would encourage everybody to at least start with the pilot trip, because it's an extensive work that we do. And I think it's a big help.
Great. Thank you, Risa. All right, Shibolet, you're up. Last but not least.
Hi guys, thank you. So I joined Olim Advisors last year, and I'm honored to be a part of their team. And I think that to be supportive for Olim coming here and holding their hand and really just taking the unknown out of the equation makes all the difference. Bureaucracy can be difficult. It can be, I don't know what other word to use besides difficult. It's not fun, that's for sure. But there's a way around it, and you don't have to do it alone. So I think that it's definitely lucky that Rafi and Lara put together this amazing service, Baruch Hashem. Making Aliyah 5 years ago from South Africa, we came with nothing. We didn't bring a lift. We brought out 21 bags that El allowed us to bring, and came to an empty apartment with 3 kids. I knew we had to get a fridge right away and a washing machine, and that's about it. The rest we just figured out along the way. It was literally jumping into the deep end and praying that Hashem would guide us through, which he did, Baruch Hashem. Ramat Bet Shemesh is the city we chose after doing a pilot trip. They have amazing schools. Like, I'm sure many other cities, I know many other cities have great schools, but for us, Ramat Bet Shemesh really fit the thing that we were looking for in terms of religious levels. In terms of the living environment, we wanted a quiet city, a really calm, beautiful in the hills, forests, friendly community. There's even a South African shul close by. So Baruch Hashem, we found English speakers, and it's a really good Anglo-based place, which makes Aliyah a lot of more softer landing. As far as resilience, I think that coming to Israel, you can definitely see the good, the bad, and the ugly. It helps to have a mindset before coming that it's not going to be perfect. It's not a utopia, and nowhere is actually, but it's our home, and it's always going to be a Jewish people's home. Even now with all the funny politics, and I'm not going to get into politics, but there's some funny business going on at the moment, and Israel's still good. Israel's still our home, and it always will be, Baruch Hashem. I don't think there's anywhere quite like it, even with all the fun times. There's nowhere like it, Baruch Hashem.
You know, I have a friend that said it so well. He said, Israel's a mess, but it's our mess. And I think that's a very good way of putting things.
And I like Racheli's thing of, if you smile, Israel smiles back, because that's definitely my attitude, and that's how I get through all these offices. And I pray first, because I think we need Hashem's help, and then I smile, because they're just people. They're just like us, and there's just a different culture and a different way, and they're also trying to get through the day and having people shout at them. And Misrata Rishui, which is the licensing department, has better security than I think some of BB's offices, because crazy things go down there. There's a lot of screaming, there's a lot of disputing and frustration, and these people behind the counters are just also trying to, make it through the day. So smiling definitely helps. Baruch Hashem.
Amazing. Thanks.
Can I add one thing quickly?
Quickly, sure.
Yes. So I said how difficult it was when I was here in the beginning, but I just want to say, because I have the long range view now, because I am here a long time, and I've moved from Jerusalem forever to Netanya, which is now a new process for me. But I could tell you that my oldest, who was going to high school, left America and said, "You ruined my life." He was the first one back. And I have 5 children, and now I have 13 grandchildren. And when I look at them, I look at my grandchildren who are really Israeli. I will always be a greenhorn. I will, even though I'm here so long. But the next generation, when you make the move, it's a move not just for you. It's a move that paves the road and opens up opportunities for your whole family, and to direct a whole new life. And I just wanted to add that perspective.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. I appreciate it. Now, I just want to talk about a couple of other challenges, and I'll touch upon this just to really give you some sense, and then of course we can go into more detail when we have a one-on-one conversations. But there are two main concerns that Olim have. One is the financial concerns, and the other one is dealing with bureaucracy, as everyone's mentioned. And so when it comes to financial concerns, some things that you should keep in mind. The first thing is you should put together a rough budget and really understand what it costs to live in Israel, what your income is going to be. You know, you don't want to come into this blindly. You want to live comfortably in Israel, and you want to be able to really enjoy it. And so it doesn't have to be an exact to the shekel, to the dollar, but you do want to take time. You do want to really understand what the cost of living is and what the income potential is, so that you can you can kind of map that out, and it's part of your planning. The second thing is, and this is something that you should do before you make Aliyah, maybe a good few months to a year beforehand, is really talk to local and Israeli tax advisors. So if you're from the US, UK, South Africa, Australia, talk to your advisors there, talk to Israeli tax advisors, because there are things that you can do, things that you shouldn't do, that can have a very big implication on your tax liability. And so, selling assets, selling your home, things like that, it's definitely worthwhile to be proactive and to get that information so that you can plan your finances better before you make Aliyah. The next thing, as we talked about, when you put a budget together, you have the expenses, you have the income. And when you look at the income potential here, salaries in Israel are definitely lower than many of the other countries around the world for when people are making Aliyah. But there are things that you can do. You can work remotely, and I think that's one of the things that COVID did. It really changed the whole working environment. And so a lot of the people that we help are working remotely. They're able to keep their US salaries or the UK salaries, or from Australia, and that typically really will help you cover your expenses and be in a good situation. And also, you have to be aware of it, and I won't get into this because it gets into a little bit of a detailed explanation, but when you're generating income in Israel, you have to look at the way that it's structured, because there might be an opportunity for it to be defined as passive income, which means you don't have to pay taxes on it. So again, like I was saying before, you really want to make sure that you do your homework. You look at not just the expenses and the cost of living, but also your income potential. And of course, this is something that we can help you with the planning. And that's the thing to realize. A lot of people turn to us and say, well, what's a typical budget? And there really isn't typical. It really depends on the family situation, how many kids you have, what your lifestyle is like. Do you have two cars? Do you buy a home? Do you own a home? Are you renting? Or are you going out? Are you traveling? And so what we encourage you to do is talk to people, talk to us, talk to people, to really help you personalize and customize the budget so that it's a real and accurate budget. And it's a big concern that people have, and it's something that you really want to make sure you have a good understanding of. The other concern, the other challenge that people deal with, and we've touched upon this, is dealing with bureaucracy. And it's a necessary evil. Everyone has to do it, but it's not as bad as people make it out to be. As people said here, I think she both mentioned that these people are just doing their jobs. And so there's things that you can do to make this process easier. The first thing is come prepared with multiple copies of all your documents. Everything that Nefesh B'Nefesh, the Jewish agency, says you should bring, make sure that you bring that, make sure you have copies, because there's a good chance that you will need them, and that will just help expedite the process. The other thing is you have to be patient. You have to be prepared to wait. Right now, it's typically taking weeks and months to get appointments. And yes, we can help you in some situations to expedite that, but you have to realize that this is just the reality of being in Israel. You just have to make sure that you're prepared and that you have, that kind of what's coming down the pipeline. The other thing is really have somebody who's been through this experience, whether it's your family, your friends, your coworkers, people that can really guide you through the process. And, if you don't have somebody like that, then, we can definitely help you. You will find that it will save you a tremendous amount of time, tremendous amount of effort and aggravation. And really, you want to try and get that out of the way. So in the first few weeks, you want to really take care of the bureaucracy. And especially if you're not familiar with the process and if you don't speak Hebrew, then reach out to people. As a number of people mentioned here, I think David mentioned it. It's okay to ask for help. You kind of need to leave your ego at home and say, look, I'm new, I don't understand, can you help me? And a lot of people will be more than happy to help you. And you'll see that, by doing that, it really takes away a lot of the stress and really makes this whole process a lot more manageable. Okay, so this is really just scratching the surface, but these are main concerns, and of course, these are areas that that we can help you with. What I wanted to just mention before we get into the questions in a moment, a lot of people ask us, so what are your fees? And so we don't get into the fees here in the presentation because it really depends on what you need. And so as Chuck and Risa mentioned, we sit down to understand what your needs are, and then we can kind of customize a package. But one of the exciting things that we just want to share with you, and this really just came to fruition today, is that we've been introduced to a wealthy individual who's a big Zionist, and he was just blown away by what we've done and really wants to help. And we explained to them that not everybody can afford to pay our fees or have it in their budget. And he said, look, for the month of August, let people know that I'm here to help. He wanted to keep himself anonymous, but in essence, what he said is that if people want to sign up for your packages, whether it's the VIP or the all-inclusive, and they just, they don't have it in their budget, then he is happy to subsidize it, by 40%. And what I didn't mention here is we have the bureaucracy package as well for people who just want to focus on that, and he's willing to subsidize that by 20%. So I just wanted to share the exciting news with you to know that, as everyone mentioned, I think Racheli was the first one to mention that people just want to help, and whether it's financially or else or in other ways, this is just something that we're really excited about and wanted to share with you. And of course, we would be happy to talk to you about it further. Okay, so I want to just, we have a few minutes left. I want to just put up the poll. Some people who came in late, we want to just get a sense of what you are interested in, what you need help in. So I'm going to go ahead and, second here. Just for a couple of minutes, if you haven't answered this already beforehand, please just take a minute and let us know, and then we're going to get to the question and answers. And in the meantime, also I'm going to put our contact information here. Again, I'm going to send out an email with the recording. So, if you don't have a pen and pencil ready, you can't jot it down. We'll send you the information. Of course, our website, olimadvisors.com. We have a contact information on there, but we'll just take another moment or two if you can just fill out the information. And in the meantime, I'm going to start looking at the questions here, and we'll get to them in a moment. Okay, if you can just take a moment and finish up the poll, we'll end that, and we'll get to okay, great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm just going to end it now. Okay, great. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the questions here. There was a question here about the senior retirement facilities, and I think that we're seeing more and more people who want to retire to Israel. In the past, they would retire to Florida and California, and other cities in other countries along the beach. And we're seeing more and more people come here, A, because their kids and grandkids are here, B, maybe because they want the lifestyle, they want the good weather, they see the freedom, and they see the opportunity for people to travel and volunteer and work, and really, it's a phenomenal lifestyle. And so when it comes to retirement facilities, there's a number of different models, and typically in most cities, there are different types of facilities. You can have one where you have all the services included in it. There's another one where you have the option of paying a monthly fee. And then there's also just areas in each city, each community where there tend to be more retired people. And so I realize that there's a lot more detail that goes into it, so we can definitely talk about this in more detail, but just know that there are a number of options in most cities, and it's something that can really help you live a very productive, a very fulfilling life from a social point of view, from a just a day-to-day point of view, and that's something that is that's definitely available to you. Let's see here. So here's a question about a pilot trip. And so it's a good question. A lot of people that come on a pilot trip will come for a period of a few weeks, and so reach out to us. We can help you. The question here is about finding an Airbnb or finding accommodation for a few weeks, and Airbnb isn't always the best choice. There are other options as well, and so a lot of times the realtors who we work with, who really want to help people make Aliyah, will gladly help you find accommodation short term. It might be for a month, might be for a few months, and so just reach out to us, let us know, and we can then we can help you figure out what what the options are. There's a question here about pensions, and I know Risa, we just talked about this a little while ago, and so there's a lot of that goes into this, but what I'll tell you is that, if I'm not mistaken, the pension age, the retirement age for men, and maybe Chuck, you can also confirm this, is 62, and I believe for women it's 67.
The opposite.
Sorry?
The opposite.
Oh, so, sorry.
Women are 62. Men are
67. Thank you, Risa. So, and there are different benefits here that are provided, financial and other benefits as well. And that's one of the amazing things about Israel. It really takes care of its elderly, and I think there's a lot of there is a lot of support here. So, I realize there's a lot of details that go into it. So feel free to reach
There's
out to us.
also, Rafi, so there's a few medical questions, and it's definitely important to do research beforehand, whether you're going to figure out which kupa you want to choose, which healthcare. There's 4 different national carriers here in Israel. And also, if you do have a specific healthcare condition, it's very important to do research beforehand to find out the names of doctors. It can be done in many, many different ways. There are WhatsApp groups, there's organizations that help with this. You can reach out to us and we can definitely give you that information. Definitely something that's important to understand and to know about.
Right.
Our healthcare package.
Go ahead.
I just want to add, and before I came here, I was living in Canada and I was working in Canadian immigration, and and I have nothing against Canada, but the different philosophy. You could be excluded from being accepted into Canada if you had a medical condition because they're worried about someone being a drain on the Canadian healthcare system. How different it is here.
Yeah.
I don't think you can be turned down regardless of what you have. I have a friend who's applying, he's thank God he's in remission for very serious cancer. They said, fine, we just need the documents. It's fine. You're welcome. Please come.
Parents came at 101.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So keep
the
that in mind.
system is set up to age in place, and we have caregiver system that's amazing and unusual. We have an amazing healthcare program. The Olim Advisors can help do some of that research for you.
Exactly.
And it's really an option that many people should consider in terms of retiring and the long range getting care here.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
There's a question here on owning a home, and I'll touch upon it just for a minute. Somebody wanted to know if there's tax implications if you already own property in Israel, and so the answer is no. If you're making Aliyah, there's no additional fees or taxes that you have to pay if you own property here. What I can tell you is that there are benefits to making Aliyah and buying a property, once you make Aliyah within a year. And so it's a very important thing to keep in mind, is that, like I was saying before about the planning, the financial planning, if you do want to own a home, sometimes planning it right can save you literally tens of thousands of dollars or more even. And so that's something that we can explain to you. But if you already own a home in Israel, you don't have to, there's no additional fees that you have to pay, taxes that you have to pay. There's a question here about making Aliyah without without a lot of money, without Hebrew and without family. And so, making Aliyah without Hebrew and without family, a lot of people do. And I think that's the amazing thing, is that the country adopts you, and you meet people, and people want to help you. And so I wouldn't, use that as I wouldn't, shouldn't be a reason why you should not make Aliyah. And even though your children are older, 14 and 15, as you heard, Racheli came with older kids, Risa came with older kids. And that's something that Laura and I have noticed as well, is that families are coming with older kids, and there are a lot more schools and programs for older kids. And so I wouldn't not make Aliyah for that reason. The financial part is something that you need to think through, and it's not specific to Israel. It's moving to any place, any city, any country. You want to make sure that you can make it, that you don't have to be wealthy, you don't have to live a life of luxury, but you don't want to make Aliyah and really not even struggle, but not be able to put food on your table. And so I think that's something that you need to think through. And sometimes people think that the cost of living in Israel is a lot higher than it is. And so, we can go into details with you, figure out what your situation is, and help you figure that out. But the other issues, I wouldn't really, I wouldn't not make Aliyah for those issues, because I think that you will adjust, you'll figure it out, and you'll be just fine.
I think that what's important, Lafi, and this is just for everyone, just a last point, is to, like we're saying, it's really to have all the information. You have to know that life here is not for free, and there are expenses, and moving here is expensive. So to understand that, so you can reach out to us, and we're happy to go over things with you and explain things to you. But there needs to be a plan of action to come, not just to come and say everything will be okay. So, to understand what the expenses will be, what the move will cost, what it'll be, what the options are for children that are older, schooling wise, support, and then make an educated decision that can make sense for the family.
Right, absolutely. We'll just take another question or two. There's a question here about getting retirement money. So I know from the US, your Social Security can be deposited directly into your bank account here, and it's a pretty seamless, straightforward process. And that's for a lot of people, that's enough to get by and live comfortably in Israel. Of course, it depends on how much you're making, where you're living, but for a lot of people, that covers a lot of the bills. And so it is something that is doable, and transferring money back and forth is doable. It's Israel is a modern country when it comes to that, and it's very easy to keep your assets in the country that you're living and transfer them back and forth if you need to. And so financially, that's something that's important to realize. Let's see, Laura, there was any other questions here that you felt?
Laura, do you want to
About
talk?
a certain age and mortgages. So there's definitely a lot of options out there. So reach out to us, send an email, and we'll get you in touch with people that can give you those answers. But there definitely are different options, different ages, and
right. Even for people in their 70s and 80s, there are new mortgage plans. So that's true. Risa, what were you saying?
I was just going to mention, and maybe Lara, you want to say it in more detail, that about our components, that we have just pre-planning or just the pilot trip, and some of our components are possible to like a la carte our services.
Definitely, yeah, we definitely have more comprehensive packages, and then we have the pieces of whether it's the pre-Aliyah, the planning, the thinking of, all the questions that everyone has. And then once people arrive here in Israel, dealing with the bureaucracy, all the fun and not fun, we take away all that headache and we make it as smooth as possible. And then we have a post-Aliyah, really helping people through for the months after they arrive here, and obviously also a pilot trip, which is very, very important. And then we help with real estate people that are looking to buy homes, and we've had people with specific medical issues that we do the research for them before they arrive, make sure that we understand very well what their needs are, find doctors for them. Takes away all the, not all, but a lot of the stress to know that someone's on the ground doing the work for them.
Right. Okay, well, I just want to thank you all for joining us. Thank you to all the panelists who joined us. Thank you for taking out the time. And we really appreciate it. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. And we just want to encourage you, really end on a positive note that, this is an amazing country. There's amazing things for everybody. And if this is being a dream of yours, if it's a desire of yours, if it's, part of your plan, then we can help you make that a reality. So be well, everyone. Have a wonderful week. Keep healthy, and we will speak to you soon. Thanks so
Thank
much.
you, everyone.
Take care.
Thank you for joining
Bye-bye.
us.
Hit her out.
Take care. Shavua tov.
Right.